What we've just seen in the House of Commons is not just another moment in politics. This is one of those moments that can define everything that follows. Because what began as a controversial decision has now exposed something much deeper. Something that can't simply be resolved with an apology. A situation that now puts three key things into question: leadership, judgment, and public trust. And when those three things start to come under pressure, things quickly move beyond control. Because right now, the question is no longer what happened. The real question is, how far could this go? If you want to understand what's really happening behind all of this, make sure you subscribe now, because what happens next could be critical. It all begins with a statement in the House of Commons. A session that, in theory, was meant to be routine. But from the very start, it became clear this would be anything but normal. Keir Starmer takes the floor and does something that always carries consequences in politics. He admits a mistake. He states clearly that he should not have appointed Peter Mandelson. He accepts responsibility for that decision. And he issues a public apology. In many situations, this might be seen as an act of leadership. A way to draw a line under the issue. To show accountability. To move forward. But the problem is, when a story has already grown this large, an apology doesn't end it. It intensifies it. And that's exactly what happens here. Because the moment that admission is made, a much more difficult question emerges. How did this decision happen in the first place? And this is where everything changes. Because the focus moves away from the outcome and onto the process. MPs begin to question everything. Not just what happened, but how it happened. Concerns start to emerge around the flow of information, the transparency of the process. And where responsibility truly lies. And when that happens in politics, the situation stops being isolated. It becomes systemic. Because it's no longer just about a single mistake. It's about how decisions are being made at the highest level. At the center of all this, one phrase keeps coming back again and again. A phrase that defines the entire defense: I wasn't told. According to Starmer, key information was not passed to him. He did not have full visibility. He did not have all the details. And he made the decision without the complete picture. At first glance, that may sound like a reasonable explanation. But the more you examine it, the more complex it becomes. Because that single statement opens up a far bigger issue. If we break this down, there are really only two possible explanations. The information was not properly communicated. If that's the case, then this points to a serious breakdown within government processes. Because when it comes to high-level decisions, particularly sensitive appointments, information must be delivered clearly, directly, and completely. There is no room for gaps. No room for assumptions. No room for partial understanding. If information is lost or withheld, then the issue is no longer individual. It becomes structural. A system that fails to ensure decision-makers have everything they need is a system that carries risk. And that risk doesn't disappear. It remains. The information existed, but was not properly acted upon. And this scenario is even more serious. Because now, we're no longer talking about process. We're talking about judgment. About decision-making under known conditions. About taking a risk and choosing to proceed regardless. And when those risks later become visible, pressure becomes unavoidable. Because at that point, it's not about what you didn't know. It's about what you chose to do. And this is where the real problem lies. Because this is no longer about the initial mistake. It's about what that mistake represents. It raises questions about structure. It raises questions about leadership. And most importantly, it raises questions about clarity. And in politics, a lack of clarity is dangerous. Because when people don't fully understand what's happened, they begin to question everything. And once trust starts to erode, it is extremely difficult to rebuild. Right now, the situation is finely balanced. Because the pressure is not only coming from the opposition. There are signs of concern within the wider political environment. More difficult questions are being asked. Questions that don't go away easily. Who knew what? When did they know it? And why wasn't action taken sooner? And every time those questions remain unanswered, the pressure increases. From here, there are several possible outcomes. The situation could escalate, particularly if new details emerge. It could stabilize temporarily, if no further information comes out. Or it could evolve into something much bigger, if the focus shifts fully onto leadership itself. But one thing is clear, this is not over. And in politics, when a story continues to develop, every new detail has the potential to reshape public perception. This is no longer just about one appointment. It's not even just about one mistake. It's about something much deeper. It's about how decisions are made at the highest level. It's about whether systems function as they should, or whether they fail. It's about whether leaders are fully in control, or reacting to events as they unfold. And above all, it's about trust. Because in the end, everything in politics depends on that. And when trust begins to weaken, every decision, every statement, every explanation carries far greater weight. Because this is no longer just about what happened. It's about what it means. And what comes next. If you want to stay up to date as this story develops, make sure you subscribe now. Because what happens next could be decisive. And I want to hear from you. Do you think this was just a mistake, or something much bigger? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments.